Okay, let's dive right in. Today we're going to break down a really bold new blueprint, and its title kind of says it all, the 10 billion harvest. It's a plan that wants to completely flip the script on how we feed the entire planet.
And it all kicks off with this huge, ambitious question. What if we could feed a world of 10 billion people, not by drilling and digging for more stuff, but by being radically smarter with what we already have? I mean, it sounds almost like science fiction, right? But this blueprint actually lays out a plausible path.
So here's the fundamental shift in thinking. Our system today is totally linear. It's a one-way street. We mine phosphate rock for fertilizer, we use it on our farms, and then, most of it just washes away as waste and pollution. The blueprint says, no, let's make it a perfect circle. Nutrients go from the farm to the city, and then we capture them and bring them right back to the farm. It's a closed loop. No more mining, no more waste.
Now, to really get why this is such a game changer, we have to talk about one specific element, phosphorus. It's the P in fertilizer. It's absolutely essential for life as we know it, but it also presents us with this massive global paradox.
First, let's just remember the stakes here. The global population is rocketing towards 10 billion people by 2050. That is an unbelievable number of mouths to feed. And doing that means our need for phosphorus is about to go through the roof.
And here's the first half of the paradox. All of our agricultural phosphorus comes from mining phosphate rock, and that's a finite resource. It's not going to last forever. We're actually hitting something called peak phosphorus, which means the easy-to-get, high-quality stuff is running out. We are literally draining the tank on a key ingredient for our food supply.
But, and this is the crazy part, the phosphorus we do use is incredibly wasteful. So much of it just runs off the fields and pours straight into our rivers and oceans. This overload of nutrients causes these huge algal blooms that literally suck all the oxygen out of the water, creating vast dead zones. It's called eutrophication, and it's a huge ecological disaster. So you see the paradox? We're running out of it on one end, and we're being poisoned by it on the other. So how in the world do you solve a problem like that? Well, the blueprint's answer is to stop treating phosphorus like it's a disposable piece of trash. We need to start treating it like the precious, valuable resource it is, and step one is all about recovery. So meet the hero of this story, struvite. And what's amazing is that this isn't some futuristic, lab-grown material. Nope, it's a crystal. And get this, you can make it directly from wastewater, things like urine and farm runoff. With some simple chemistry, at normal, everyday temperatures, you can create this perfect, slow-release, recycled fertilizer.
And the process itself is just brilliantly low-tech. You collect the wastewater that's rich in phosphorus, you add a source of magnesium, which could be something as simple as ash, and boom, the struvite crystals just form naturally. Then you just harvest them. You could do this in simple tanks. You don't need a billion-dollar factory.
The plant also has this really clever side hustle for getting phosphorus. You can actually harvest it right out of the air. By setting up these special fences at the edge of fields, you can capture dust that's rich in phosphorus. And then, with just a little help from morning dew and CO2 in the air, that dust turns into a usable fertilizer right there. It's like a little bonus, a few extra kilos of free P per hectare every year.
Okay, so we figured out how to get phosphorus back from our waste. The next big piece of the puzzle is to make our farms way more efficient. We need to make sure that once that precious fertilizer is on the field, it actually stays there and gets used by the crops, instead of just washing away. And a huge key to that efficiency is tapping into a natural partnership that's been around for millions of years. See, plants by themselves are actually not that great at pulling phosphorus out of the soil. But when you help them team up with native mycorrhizal fungi, everything changes. The fungi create this massive underground web that acts like a gigantic extension of the plant's own root system, making it incredibly good at finding and absorbing phosphorus. And the blueprint is really clear. Only use native fungi to avoid any weird ecological side effects.
But what about when you get a massive rainstorm? You still need a safety net, right? And for that, the blueprint calls for these specially engineered retention channels, designed to fit the specific landscape or topology of each farm. And here's how they work. It's pretty smart. The channels are built to slow the water down, way down. This gives algae that's naturally in the channel time to soak up the phosphorus. Then, for a really big storm, any water that overflows is funneled through these special filter beds that can capture over 90% of whatever's left. It's a multi-layer defense to get as close to zero leakage as possible.
All right, a plan this big is great on paper,
But you're probably asking, can this actually work in the real world? Well, that's exactly what this final section of the blueprint is all about, how we take this idea and actually make it happen.
And look, this isn't just wishful thinking. There's a real, pragmatic timeline here. The idea is to start small. Test the core ideas in single village pilots over the next couple of years. If that works, you move up to testing regional loops. You only try to scale this thing up nationally or globally after you've proven that it works and it's cost-effective.
So how do you get everyone from farmers to city managers on board? You create smart incentives. The plan suggests a system where for every kilogram of phosphorus you help return to the loop, you earn a credit that could be worth as much as a carbon credit. Suddenly, recycling phosphorus isn't just good for the environment, it's good for your wallet. It turns waste into a valuable asset. A really critical part of this is something called red teaming. That basically means you're actively trying to break your own system to find the flaws before they become big problems. Every single piece of this, from the struvite to the fungi, has to pass really strict tests for safety and efficiency. For example, the fertilizer has to be 100% free of pathogens. The fungi can't spread where you don't want them to. It's all about making sure every part is bulletproof before you scale up.
And you gotta know, this is not a rigid, one-size-fits-all plan. It's designed to be super flexible. For massive farms in America's cereal belt, you'd focus on those large-scale channels. For small subsistence farms in parts of Africa or Asia, the focus would be on simple, community-owned reactors. The technology gets adapted to fit the local reality.
Because, let's be honest, at the end of the day, none of this works if the farmers aren't on board. So the plan tackles their biggest worries head-on. Worried about the upfront cost? That's what the peak credits and subsidies are for. Need to learn new techniques? That's covered by training. Don't want the headache of maintaining the system? That can be handled through shared service contracts. It's all about making it easy for them.
So if you take just one thing away from all this, let it be this big idea. The whole blueprint is built on fundamentally reframing how we see this resource. Phosphorus isn't just some cheap consumable to be mined, used once, and thrown away. It is an incredibly valuable, essential element that we should be keeping in an infinite loop inside our food system.
And that really leaves us with a final fascinating question. This kind of circular thinking completely transforms the phosphorus problem into a powerful solution. So it really makes you wonder, what other things that we call waste are actually just valuable resources in disguise?